To welcome Meacher MP.
Thank you very much. The first requirement of foreign policy after Blair must be greater independence from the United States in order that we establish our own agenda, which is world peace, trade justice, and the resolution of conflict and genocide as in Darfur through the United Nations. Not the Bush agenda of the so-called war on terror, which I, for one, have always believed and still believe is utterly bogus, merely a cover in order to extend US power and influence across the world. With now US troops stationed in as many as 70% of countries globally. Terrorism, contrary to Bush, is nothing to do with a clash between Christianity and Islam. Christianity has terrorism. Terrorism has everything to do with Western military seizure of countries because of their oil, which was always at the origin of the struggle. Terrorism has everything to do with taking control of Middle East states by occupation forces. Don't forget that there wasn't a single suicide bomber in Iraq before the American invasion. And terrorism has everything to do with a grossly imbalanced policy of the West in respect of Israel, Palestine, and the Arab states. And that is why we demand withdrawal of all occupation forces from throughout the Middle East. That is why, as we heard in the last session, we demand total unequivocal opposition to any suggestion of a military attack against Iran, which almost certainly will be for their oil, not because of nuclear weapons. And that is why we demand a resolution of the conflict over Palestine by the construction of a viable and sustainable Palestinian state. I would say in the context of a wider Middle East peace conference, bringing together not only the permanent members of the Security Council and all the regional power brokers in order to resolve these outstanding and interconnected issues, which experience shows cannot be resolved separately one by one, but which perhaps can be resolved, I believe can be resolved, and produce a peace we've not seen for decades as a result perhaps of a single multilateral package through negotiation of the demands of all the relevant parties. But the key to all of this, the key to Western withdrawal from the Middle East is a switch to a new world energy order, away from oil and gas and coal, and powering the world economy through renewable sources of energy. Do not forget that it's not just this country, we're very luckily endowed with renewable resources, but the EU, the US and China all have far more renewable resources, if properly harnessed, than is necessary for all the electricity generation they need. And I say this, it is insane that we are letting rip this horrendous, murderous daily carnage in the Middle East. Why? In order to get control of the remaining repositories of oil. When the oil, as we have heard, is already beginning to decline and within 20, 30, 40 years will run out. And to pursue a short-sighted policy like that is not only illegal, it is not only infamous, it is also so short-sighted and foolish as to be almost incomprehensible. The two biggest threats that face this country and indeed the whole world are climate change and long-term energy security. And both of those require a fundamental reconfiguration of foreign policy away from the Middle East, away from oil, coal and gas. And that is exactly the lead which we should be giving the world. And third, and very briefly, we should be looking post-Blair to abandon our long, costly and futile obsession with nuclear weapons. If we say If we say nuclear weapons are necessary for our security, of course Iran is going to say exactly the same, that it's necessary for their security. And who can deny that? And it's not just Iran, but the 40 or so technologically advanced states standing behind Iran, all of which are now capable of producing nuclear weapons. And I simply say this, if the world goes down that route, is the world going to be a safer place, or is it, as I believe, going to be a very much more dangerous place? I say this, if I had my way, I would reopen this question. I would have a proper consultation of the British people, which hasn't taken place, and a new debate, and a new vote in the House of Commons, in order to give a genuine mandate for a new government. But this decision does not need to be taken until 2014, and we should be using this window of opportunity, which is priceless, not just ourselves to take a decision for ourselves, but to call for a world nuclear disarmament conference. That's what we want to see, so that all the countries of the world can make their contribution towards a safer world, to stop what is the most dangerous thing of all, this steady slide to nuclear proliferation, and towards the build-up, as we're seeing, of a new arms race in space with the son of Star Wars. That is our agenda for world peace. We are in pole position to bring it about, and that is how I would lead this country.